All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Lure Lab, a part of the Serious Angler Network, and this is episode 103. And as always, I am your host, the captain, Andrew Fall. And fall, one of the best techniques that you can throw to not just catch one bass, but multiple at one time, possibly, is the Alabama rig. And today we're talking about a new variation of the Alabama rig on the market. And we're going to be talking about the Stealth Lures Stealth Rig with Saxton Long. But real quick, before we bring him on here, I just want to mention everyone that might be new here to the Lure Lab, a part of the Serious Angler Network, that we are a podcast to bring all the information forward about all the best baits, techniques, lures, rod and reel setups, line, all of the shebang, right? To help you catch more bass on the bank, in a kayak, or on the boat. So I want to thank everyone who tunes in on a weekly basis to hear on the Lure Lab. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, anything that is mentioned on this podcast that is available on Omnia will be down below in the description. So make sure you hit that link, head on over to Omnia, type in Serious 10 to save 10% on your order. But anyways, without further ado, let's get Saxton on here to talk about the Stealth Rig. I sure am excited about this. It's not one that I have personally fished yet, but I know it's that time of year. I catch a ton of smallmouth on an A rig and a bunch of different variations on it. So I'm intrigued to learn about this new bait on the market. Saxton, what's going on, my man?
Hey man, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you responding and coming on here. I'm sure your DMs are infiltrated every time you post about the Stealth Rig. And a quick little, I think I learned about it last year. One of my buddies up here bought it and was like, check this thing out. I was like, it's sweet. And I forgot about it. Shame on me, right? I should have had you on last year because I think you launched it around like midsummer last year, right?
I actually launched it earlier this year. It
Okay.
was back in January at the East Tennessee Fishing Show.
So that's where I saw it was in May when
Yeah.
I was fishing with a buddy and he showed it to
Yep.
me. So I couldn't remember. Every day's a blur when I fish, right? So
Yeah.
you know how
Heard
it
that.
goes. So, man, so what's going on down there in the South? You cracking them yet or what?
Well, I went to a local lake here the other day, and I probably caught about 60 or 70 on the rig. So it's finally starting to heat up down here. They're starting to chase some bait and getting that fall patterns and stuff. So it's looking good so far.
60, 70 fish. I would die for a day like that right now. It's tough to catch like 15. And everyone thinks the North is easy, right? So
Yeah.
that's incredible numbers. But anyways, before we get too far down the rabbit hole, I do want to chat about this creation that you made. And I'm curious, and I'm sure our viewers are too. What was the major influence behind the creation of the Stealth Rig?
So this is no lie. So I had the original Alabama rigs when they first came out. Whenever Andy Poss originally made them, and I threw them for a couple years, and I caught tons of fish on them and stuff. And like my mind is always just racing to find new stuff. And one day I just got to thinking, I was like, we have metal A rigs, so but like, why are they metal? Like, why isn't there a clear one that just disappears in the water that would look so much more natural and realistic? And after I thought about it, I always write down every idea that I ever have in my phone. So like I go in my notes, and the moment that I have an idea, I always write it down, because if you don't, you always forget it.
100%.
And so I did that, and a couple months later, I was looking through my phone, and I saw that. And so I got to thinking, and I was like, I feel like it would have already been made if someone could make it. So I kind of was like, well, that probably wouldn't work, and I don't know how I don't know how you'd ever do it. Don't know what materials you'd use and all that stuff. So my girlfriend at the time, I went over her parents' house one day, and we'd went duck hunting that morning, and I seen some of this like clear material stuff just laying around their house that they'd used for a decoy or something. And then all of a sudden, like I had a light bulb, and I was like, huh, wonder what that is. So I got a couple feet of it, and I went back to my hometown and got my granddad to help me. And we went to the hardware store and got a bunch of metal clips and all kinds of stuff. And we started drilling. And so then I basically just had 5 arms or whatever that I had cut. And I pretty much just tied them together with like some sewing thread or something just to see. And I went to one of our ponds on the farm and I tossed it in there. I was like, man, that looks pretty good. I mean, it don't look great, but it might have some potential.
It'll work.
And so, yeah, so I started researching how to like make my own molds and stuff. And I made the original like head design out of like sculpting clay and basically just hardened that. And then just one thing led to another. And like, I would get it to a certain step and then I'd run into an obstacle and then pretty much just think about it for a few weeks or just randomly something would pop in my head and I'm like, I'm gonna try that. And then next thing you know, 6 years later, here we are with this. So like it's just been an insane journey seeing it from the start. Cause like the first time I ever had a single prototype, I took it to Pickwick Lake down in Alabama. And this was like, I want to say in June. And the first school that I ever threw it in, my first cast, I caught a 3-pounder on it. And my second cast, I caught a double.
It's a
And
good start.
yeah, and as soon as I did that, I was like, I'm onto something here. And like, if I showed you a picture of that first prototype, you'd be like, that is literally the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life.
I'm
Like, I don't know
surprised you
why.
don't have it laying around.
Oh, I've got my first like 5 or 6 prototypes, and if you compared them like to this guy right here now, I mean, it's not even remotely close to what it turned into. But the crazy part is that same day, I ended up catching like 40 fish on it. And right before dark, I hooked into a fish and I broke it off out there like in 25 feet of water. And so I was pretty upset because I was like, it took me like 2 days to build that thing. And so about, I want to say 3 weeks goes by. And do you know Kobe Pellerito?
Yeah.
So I was friends with him at the time, or like still am. But he sent me this dude's Instagram story, and it was a dude that lived in Michigan, and he was holding up my prototype rig, just twirling it. He was like, "I don't know what this is, but this is the ugliest looking thing I've ever seen, and I almost threw it away 20 times. But if anybody knows what this is, let me know." And so like I DM'd him whenever I was like, "Dude, where did you find that thing? Like that's mine. Like I lost that in Alabama." And he's like, "Oh, well, I went down there fishing about 3 weeks ago and I snagged it with a 10XD offshore." And I was like, "How? Like that is
Yeah.
insane." And he ended up sending it back to me and I still have it to this day.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's been crazy. And then like another one of those stories like that is one of my best friends, James. He's helped me a bunch of like with a bunch of building and stuff with it. And he went to Douglas Lake a couple years ago and he was throwing it along this bluff and he got it hung up like in like 10 or 15 feet of water on the bluff in a treetop. And so he stood there for like 30 minutes trying to get it out and he ended up breaking it off. And so he went back when the water fell like a week later and it was gone. So I'm sitting here and I was at the time, I was basically trying to get all my manufacturer stuff finished up so I could, bring this to the market. And I get on Instagram and I look at Ott Defoe's new video that he posted on YouTube, and my rig was in his video, like on the front page. And I was like, how did he get one of those? And come to find out, he had went down that same bluff a couple days after my buddy James had lost my rig, and the water had dropped like 6 or 8 feet, and he seen it in the tree and got it, and he had it hanging in his garage for like a year. And then he was doing like a wintertime video or something, and he like basically saw it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna use this for that video." And I ended up getting his number, and I texted him about it, and he sent me the rig back, and he wrote a letter saying where he found it and everything, and signed it.
That's so cool.
So it's been wild.
That's awesome. That he's probably caught some fish on it too.
Yeah, he said he had.
You're like,
But
oh, hopefully he bought some of the new ones so he can chuck them around. That'd be sweet.
oh yeah, he's got some. He's got several of them. He's done pretty good on them around here.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. That just helps you sell more baits, so that works
Yep.
out, right? So
Yeah, he's a good dude.
the total construction of it, like you don't have to speak to like what the actual proprietary material of it is,
Mhm.
but like how did you come about the final design, and why is it, in your opinion, better than all the other A rigs on the market?
So pretty much whenever I first invented this thing, the 2 or 3 key features that I wanted to have is one, it had to be clear. That way it would disappear in the water and like fish wouldn't get a good look at it. And then the next one is I wanted to make the strongest A rig on the market. Like that was my main 2 goals. And so once I finally figured out the clear factor of it, I had that, and I just kept making advancements on that, testing out different swivels and blades, and figuring out how to get, the keepers and stuff on the blades, and how to make all the loops and stuff and make them super, super strong. And basically, after doing all that stuff and testing, I mean, I've tested thousands of hours over the years with this thing, and I finally got it to where it is today. And I truly believe that it is the strongest rig on the market. I mean, I've got several friends that have thrown these for years, and they've got some, including me. I've got 1 or 2 that I still have, but I've caught almost 2,000 fish on one rig, and it still works. Like it don't look good. It was one of my early models, but I caught so many fish on that thing, and it never breaks. And like I've caught tons of big stripers on it. I've got guys catching muskies on them.
That's
It's been
sweet.
thrown. It's been thrown in the ocean. I mean,
Now,
it's a tank.
how did you decide on the arm length on the 4 that come off the side?
So I pretty much just had to do a bunch of tests. I mean, I made some of my old models and stuff. I made them super short, and then I made some longer. And basically, through trial and error, I finally came to the lengths that they're at, and it's pretty much the best length that I've found for this specific bait. And I mean, like I've made some, I've got some in the works that are a little bit longer and even stronger arms and stuff that are stiffer. But for this specific model, I mean, the length of the arm it's just because of trial and error, pretty much.
Nice. And that took 6 years of prototyping, correct?
Yeah, so I pretty much worked on it for like 4 years, like in my garage or home. And it was a very, very well kept secret for several years around here. Like a couple of my buddies, they won a bunch of big tournaments and stuff on it. And if I ever gave one to a friend, like I had strict rules, like do not show this to anybody. Like I don't want it ever posted in a photo online. Like I think I got something here, and I was trying to get all my manufacturing stuff figured out to get them to everybody, and it was just crazy because like a couple years ago, I bet I've seen probably 20 different knockoffs over the years. They're like where people seen mine or they seen it sitting on a boat somewhere, and they were like, oh, I think I'm gonna go make one of those. And then I have a ton of friends around here, and you know word travels fast whenever a clear A rig became available. So I mean, like it's just it's just been one of them deals where I'm just super, super blessed to be in the situation to actually think of it and build it and get where I am today, for sure.
Ah, man, that's awesome. So obviously it's a stealth rig, right?
Mhm.
But what water conditions do you find that the stealth rig works best in, or does it not really matter?
So I mean, obviously in muddy water it don't perform as well, but honestly, it works super well in clear water, like especially like up north and stuff like that. But on the Tennessee River, if there is ever any kind of stain to the water, like it already has color, but any kind of stain, I don't know what it is, but this clear material in like just stained water, they just go they just go nuts over it. Like it definitely gets bit in clear water. Don't get me wrong, but I think it truly works the best like on Tennessee River stuff.
Like a dingy, like
Yeah.
that tannic color water? Is that what your stain is?
Yeah, it's not tannic, but it's got like a little green tint to it for
Mm,
sure.
perfect. So moving forward, right? Like when you're choosing the jig head combination for an
Mhm.
A rig, I'm curious what the best jig head combination you found is and what jig head you use. And
Uh-huh.
then add it in there, like maybe like your favorite paddle tail baits or what baits do you add onto it while you're fishing the stealth rig?
All right. So over the years, I've tested about anything that you could possibly imagine on this thing, and the one thing with this bait that is what's why it works so well also is because these arms they flex, they bend, they pulse very, very well. Like whenever you're bringing this through the water and you jerk your rod, these arms will fold down and they pulse really, really good. And they pulse better than metal for sure. But with that being said, with this clear material, it can only hold so much weight because it's not super stiff like metal is, so you
Hmm.
can't hang a huge swim bait on this thing. So I always recommend to everybody that you put like a 3 to 3.5 inch swim baits on it. I mean, some guys run some fours on it, but I recommend like 3 to 3.5s. And then I actually sell these jig heads that I use, and I've seriously caught thousands on these specific jig heads right here. And this is just an 1/8 ounce with a screw lock. I love 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 screw locks because they hold them on there really good. And then it's actually got a 5/0 hook in it, so it's a pretty good size hook, but it fits perfect on like a 3.5 inch bait. And usually on this, like in Tennessee, we can only have 3 hooks. So like I'll run two 2/8 ounce on the bottom and then an 1/8 ounce in the middle, and then I run like 2 teasers weightless. Oops, sorry.
You're good.
I run like 2 teasers up top, and that's what I do in Tennessee. And then like if I'm in Alabama or something where you can throw 5 hooks, I usually just throw 5 1/8 ounce on it. And if you want to get it a little deeper, you can put some like 3/16 on these bottom 2 arms, and then maybe even on the back. But I don't like putting all the weight on the back because if you think about it, whenever you put weight on the front 2 arms, it actually keeps the bait more level in the water when it's coming through. Whereas if you've got all your weight on the back, it's pretty much going to pull your bait down, and it's going to want to ride like that in the
You'd
water.
almost want to put probably the lightest jig head you could on the back with the way that's designed, right? Or
Yeah, I
five
mean you
five
could.
equal.
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said, if I'm trying to get it down deeper, I will usually put my weighted stuff on the bottom arms, and that helps pretty much level it out. But like I've got some stuff in the works that it's going to be a very, very cool add-on to this to get it down deeper, and you don't have to mess with pretty much you don't have to mess with adding more weight on your hooks and
Oh,
stuff.
that's cool.
So it's gonna be pretty nifty.
Some little hints there for everyone tuning in to
Yeah.
stay tuned to stealth lures, right? Like that's pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
I've already
That
been testing it, and it works very well. And
nice.
then for swim baits, so these are not on my website. You can go to stealthlures.com to look at all my stuff, but I'm gonna have these up here soon. This little guy, it's like a 3.25 inch bait. I've caught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fish on these. It's just like a good little shad imitator. The tail is pretty small, and it's got it doesn't kick like a Kitech. It's got more like it just kind of like just
The
does
tight
this in the
shimmy.
water. Yeah, that's kind of what I like. And then another one that I'm about to start selling is pretty much just your Kitech stuff. I mean, it's pretty generic, but a lot of guys throw like a 3.3-inch Kitech on my rig, and it works really good. And then the one that I'm super excited about is I've got this little secret swim bait that's like a 3.25 inch, and I've thrown these things for years, and I have caught pretty much all my personal bests on it. I've caught literally thousands and thousands of fish on these things, and it's a special little bait. And when you pair it with one of these, it is like lights out. It
That's
is the
awesome.
the best swim bait I've ever used. Like no questions asked. It's my confidence bait. I can take it anywhere in the country and I can catch a fish on it. And
Nice.
like it's just it's not like a super high tech swim bait. I mean it don't like look super fancy, but the way that the tail is shaped and the way that it kind of hunts when it swims, it just
Sure.
wobbles real good. They just I don't know what it is, but they just can't stand it.
They
And
come
like I said,
unglued.
I've caught all my personal best smallmouth on it. I've caught my personal best largemouth, and I've won so much money fishing tournaments and stuff locally on this thing. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Now, what is your setup? Like, are you a fluorocarbon guy? Like, what's your rod, reel, line
Yes.
combo?
So I don't. I've really only ever thrown braid on this thing, like maybe 3 times ever. Cause like I normally always just throw 20-pound fluoro. I mean that's perfectly fine with like it's plenty enough strength. And this thing, it's pretty light. I mean, it's. I want to say it's a little bit lighter than a Flash Mob Junior is, just out of the package. So I mean, it's not hard to throw, and like you can throw it on like a 7.6 heavy rod, like with a fast tip or something like
Do you have
that.
a favorite rod?
Yeah. So I've been using the St. Croix Legend Tournament. It's like a 7.6 heavy, and it does fantastic, and it's not that expensive of a rod, but
Yeah,
it loads up really good, and um but yeah, I would personally just use fluoro on this thing because it kind of defeats the purpose to use braid on it if you're trying to be clear.
stealthy. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. And then, what gear ratio reel and your favorite reel?
So I've always been a big fan of like a 6-to-1 with this thing. I mean, I've used it with a 7-and-1, and it works fine. But for some reason, I just always stuck with a 6. And I'm a huge Shimano guy, so I always threw it on like a Bantam or like a Corrado 200. Or like I've got a few metaniums that I throw some of my rigs on.
Nice. Have you tried the Tranks 200?
I have not.
It's not.
I got some buddies that throw them, and they seem like they're super like heavy duty reels.
Yeah, that's what I throw my A rig with, and I don't really have too many issues. So
Yeah,
it's good. Good
I'll have to
glide
try
bait reel
that.
too.
Yeah, I'd
So
say so.
something to check out there. So if we go through there, just one last question for you, and if there's anything else you want to hit on, by all means, go ahead. But for our listeners, right, like if they were to go out and purchase a stealth rig,
Mhm.
and they've thrown A rigs around, but they struggle to catch fish on them. What are like a few key pieces of advice you'd give someone who's struggling to throw it or is new to it to help them catch a few bass?
So a big thing for me, especially like with this rig, is I tell people don't be scared to get it hung up. Like I fish this thing like a spinnerbait because the way that it flexes and pulses, I get it super tight to structure, and you want it to like pulse it around tree limbs, throw it through trees. I mean, you just got to fish it. Like, don't be scared to hang it up. Get you a good lure retriever, and 9 out of 10 times you'll get this thing back. Like that's one thing that a lot of people say, and I've seen it happen a million times. But this rig, it honestly does not get hung up that bad. Like usually, if you get it hung up, you get it back. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like
Just don't
I don't know.
jam on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. if I get it hung up, I don't just start jerking on it. I'll go like, on the other side of it and pop it. Like I'll pop my rod, like the butt of the rod, and 9 times out of 10 it comes out. But with that being said, let's say fish it like a spinnerbait. I'd say throw it on the right tackle, like gear and stuff. Make sure you don't overpower the arms. You know, use like the recommended stuff. And whoever gets one, I actually have all the instructions and care stuff on the bottom. So you can always just read that and refresh your memory. And it's got on there like what line I use, what rod and stuff like that. And let's see, another thing. Get you some swim baits that you have confidence in. Like most any swim baits on the market, they all work somewhere. So like just get you a few that you know that catches fish and put them on there, and like I promise you that they will eat it. You just got to keep throwing it.
Yeah. And once you get bit, remember
Mhm.
what that cadence is, right? Like,
Yep.
and that'll
Yeah,
clue
yeah,
you into a lot of things.
yeah. With this rig, a lot of times, like I've caught a ton like pulsing it, but it seems like here lately, I catch more just straight reeling it for some reason, and I don't know why.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, mess with your cadences and stuff, and then if you don't get bit, just don't get discouraged because always remember, fish eat shad every single day. So like this is just a ball of shad. That's all it is. So just keep tossing it and kind of pay attention to your water temp because like there's certain times of the year, like especially in the summer, when bass get offshore and stuff, I catch a ton of fish offshore with this thing. But like I don't in the summertime, I don't catch them on the bank with this. Seem like they don't key in on it on the bank. But the moment you go offshore and throw it in a school, oh, it's game over. Like I can always catch, at least one or two like extra fish after you pretty much blow out the school on this thing.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many doubles that you'll catch on this in the summer. But as the water temp starts falling and stuff, that's when this starts shining like on the banks and stuff like that. I mean, obviously you can still throw it offshore and catch them, but whenever it gets cold and the water temp starts dropping, that's when this thing shines.
It's awesome. Yeah. I got to pick me up a few of them because I love A-rig fishing, but my season, unfortunately, is coming up to a wrap here for me here.
Mhm.
So I probably wouldn't be able to throw it again until spring, which stinks, but we'll see.
Well, they bite it in the spring, I promise you.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Always have an A-rig tied on, no matter what.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah, it's funny. I've thrown this thing so many times. Like it's funny. All my friends, the moment that they ask me what I caught them on, I'm like, "What do you think?" Like I always have this tied on 24/7. I take it everywhere I go, and I'm always throwing it somewhere. It don't matter if I was in Florida or Wisconsin.
right. And usually a big one bites it, which is even better. So
Mm-hmm.
might
Oh,
not get many bites, but it gets big
yeah.
ones.
Oh, it'll handle them. I promise.
Oh, that's good. So, but yeah, anyone who's tuned in, make sure you check it out. Definitely something new that everyone needs to add to the tackle box, in my opinion. So I'll be getting some too soon.
And
So
then I was going to mention too, for you guys that are interested in learning more about this, you can go to my website. It's stealthlures.com, and we've got plenty in stock. And I should have all the swim baits and stuff that I'll be selling here soon. And I've got a ton of stuff in the works. Like I've got a new storage box coming out for the rigs that's going to be very cool. You're going to be able to keep 3 of them in
that's
there,
awesome.
and it's going to have a little slot in the front of the box, and you're going to be able to keep all your jig heads and stuff in it. So that way you can keep your jig heads and your split rings and blades and stuff like that all together in the box, like with the rig.
Oh, that's perfect. And then it fits in the boat too, which is even better.
Yep.
Because sometimes storage is a premium
Yep.
depending on where and when you're fishing. So that's awesome. I look forward to seeing all the new products you have coming, man.
I appreciate it. It's
Yeah,
gonna
of
be
course.
it's gonna be pretty cool.
So Well, I appreciate you hopping on here and getting this recorded so we can get it out so everyone can, who don't know about the stuff, stealth rig can see what it's all about, and hopefully some people go and order some. So,
Well, like I said, I appreciate you having me on and let me talk about it. And I could talk all day about this thing.
oh yeah, well, post up some pictures and tag us, and we'll share them around.
All right, I sure will.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and we'll chat soon. All right.
All right, appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning into episode 103 here on the Lure Lab. That was Saxton Long and talking about stealth lure, stealth rig, and it sounds like he's got plenty of goodies coming. So you'll definitely want to go and check that out. We appreciate everyone who tunes in. If you're new here on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you love throwing the A-rig or if you've thrown the stealth rig. We'd love to see it. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, it allows you to leave a review. Please do so. Helps the Lure Lab and the Serious Angler Network be seen by more people who are interested in learning about catching fish, how to catch more fish, and just overall want to learn more about bass fishing. So until next Saturday, we will see you then.